Our big focus this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Papua New Guinea counterpart held a bilateral in Port Moresby and discussed cooperation in commerce, technology and healthcare, as well as in addressing climate change. The discussions covered strengthening partnership across sectors of trade and investment, health capacity building, as well as skill development and IT. The two sides also discussed issues related to climate action, as I mentioned briefly, and promoting people-to-people ties. Do remember, this is Prime Minister Modi's first tour to Papua New Guinea, as well as the first ever visit by any Indian Prime Minister to the Indo-Pacific country. Listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say.
A friend in need is friend indeed. मुझे खुशी है कि भारत इस चुनौतीपूर्ण समय में अपने पैसिफिक आइलैंड मित्रों से कंधा मिलाकर खड़ा रहा। भारत में बनी वैक्सीन हो या जरूरत की दवाइयां, गेहूं हो या चीनी, भारत अपनी क्षमताओं के अनुरूप सभी साथी देशों की मदद करता रहा। मेरे लिए आप लार्ज ओशन कंट्रीज है, स्मॉल आइलैंड स्टेट्स नहीं।
Also joining us, Divyanti Farid's Voice of America correspondent for further clarity on the plan of action in Papua New Guinea today. Divyanti, now as I mentioned briefly, this is our Prime Minister's first tour to Papua New Guinea. He received an exceptionally warm welcome and he also has a lot lined up today. Take us through why the third Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation Summit is important for the Pacific Island countries.
Well, Parameshwar, I just wanted to give you an idea of what a warm welcome that Papua New Guinea gave to Prime Minister Modi. He arrived last night at around 10 p.m. and he was warmly welcomed by the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, James Marape, who gave him a hug, who even touched Prime Minister Modi's feet as a sign of respect. And Prime Minister Modi was able to witness, traditional folk and dance performance, and it was given even a 19-gun salute. So it was a very, very warm welcome. And this is something special because the Papua New Guinea Prime Minister doesn't usually hold ceremonial visits after sunset, but he made an exception for Prime Minister Modi. And when it comes to the significance of Pacific Island countries, well, the Pacific Island countries, they're very enthusiastic for Prime Minister Modi's visit this time. He is the Prime Minister who initiated FIPIC, or the Forum for India and Pacific Island Country Cooperation back in 2015 in Fiji. It has been very slow at the beginning, but it's been picking up very fast recently. So this is a very positive step between strengthening ties between India and Pacific Island nation. This is the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Papua New Guinea. And Papua New Guinea actually has a significant past with India, has a long withstanding trade ties, and Papua New Guinea also has a small community of Indians living here in Port Moresby, about 3,000 people, who some of them met with Prime Minister Modi last night. Now, analysts say, the Pacific Island countries, they hope to partner with India on clean energy, agriculture, technology, while Papua New Guinea specifically will sign a pact with India on SME development and also agreements between state broadcasters, as well as reciprocal agreements for visa on arrivals. At the opening remarks earlier today, Papua New Guinea Prime Minister had expressed his, encouragement to the Indian Prime Minister and saying that he would like India to become an advocate for the voice of Pacific Island countries in big forums like G7, G20, and the Quad Leader Summit in Australia. Parameshwar?
Right. As you mentioned, Divyanti, a special welcome for Prime Minister Marape. Warmly welcomed Prime Minister Modi post-sunset. And also, as Divyanti mentioned, a lot of exciting partnerships across sectors seems to be brewing, whether it's trade to visas on arrival. You know, for us in India, Divyanti, our Prime Minister's visit is aimed at shoring up India's outreach to Pacific Island countries with an eye on countering China's growing footprint in the Pacific. What is the significance then of the Pacific Island countries amidst a power struggle between global superpowers?
Well, a lot of people tend to forget that the Pacific Island countries, they occupy a very vast area here in the Pacific, and it covers about a third of the Earth's oceans. So the Pacific Island countries are located in an area that's very frequented by trade ships. So their cooperation in maritime security is very important. And recently, you know, the United States and China has been trying to vie for more influence over this area. For example, last year, China had signed a security agreement with the Solomon Islands and even agreed on a contract to undergo some sort of infrastructure development on the seaport in its capital, Honiara. So the United States today will also sign a security pact with Papua New Guinea. So in the future, you'll be able to see more of these kinds of agreements and collaborations, especially in the sector of military and also economic development.
Thank you so much, Divyanti, for joining us with the latest on what's happening in Papua New Guinea and sharing the plan of action for the rest of the day. Thank you. That was Voice of America correspondent Divyanti Fariz joining us live. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi arrived to a ceremonial welcome, as we just discussed, a visit aimed at shoring up India's outreach to Pacific Island countries with an eye on countering China's growing footprint in the Pacific. This was the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the largest of the Pacific Island nations. This comes as New Delhi's hostilities with Beijing have prompted it to work more closely with countries such as the US, Japan and Australia in the Indo-Pacific region.
Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape touching Prime Minister Modi's feet as he landed in the island country on the second leg of his three-nation tour. This was followed by a hug between the two counterparts. The image of one Prime Minister showing this kind of respect to his elder counterpart by embracing the visitor's tradition is a rare one in the world of diplomacy. Also a resounding affirmation of Prime Minister Modi's personal popularity and India's heft. While Papua New Guinea doesn't usually give ceremonial welcomes to any leaders visiting the country after sunset, an exception was made for India's Prime Minister. The image will certainly cause severe heartburns in Beijing, as China has been investing in the area considerably. Marape has also been invited by the Chinese to visit Beijing for a state visit. Amidst growing Chinese influence in the South Pacific, Prime Minister Modi will be discussing defense and security ties with Prime Minister Marape. Papua New Guinea is the most populated as well as a resource-rich country compared to other Pacific Island countries. The country has rich reserves of gold and copper ores. James Marape has been the country's Prime Minister since 2019. Prime Minister Modi and PM Marape are jointly hosting the third forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation Summit, which will be attended by 14 Pacific Island nations. The Pacific Islands Cooperation Summit includes Cook Islands, Fiji, Kiribati, the Republic of Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, Niue, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, the Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu and Vanuatu. The forum was started by Prime Minister Modi during his visit to Fiji, another Pacific Island country, in 2014. Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Papua New Guinea. Pranab Mukherjee had visited in 2016 as President. Close to 3,000 Indians live in Papua New Guinea.
And our other big focus this morning, the third G20 Tourism Working Group meeting is set to begin in Srinagar today amid elaborate security arrangements. The G20 Chief Coordinator Harshvardhan Shringla said the three-day meeting will see the highest participation of foreign delegates as compared to the two previous meetings. Officials say the highest number of delegates from the G20 countries and other special invitee guest countries are attending the meeting, even as China, Turkey and Saudi Arabia are not going to be there for this meeting in Kashmir. My colleague Nazir Masoodi is tracking all the latest developments for us. Nazir, this is the first such international event in Jammu and Kashmir since 2019 when it became a union territory?
Yeah, exactly. And that is making it much more significant than it could have been. And there have been 118 working group meetings or the G20 meetings across India so far. But no meeting, including the ministerial meetings, has got such a media attention as this Srinagar meeting is getting. And it is becoming very important because of multiple reasons. China has opposed the meeting, boycotting the meeting, and then saying no such meeting can be held in a disputed quote-unquote area. India has rejected any such, assertion, saying Kashmir is an integral part of the country and they can hold any meeting, free to hold any meeting. And this meeting is actually evoking a lot of enthusiasm among the, many stakeholders, particularly the tourism-related tourist stakeholders. They hope this meeting is going to boost tourism in Jammu and Kashmir. But the biggest challenge is and has always been when it comes to Kashmir is the security. There have been reports and the inputs about a possible terror attack threats, and that is why from line of control to the Srinagar city, everywhere, massive security arrangements have been made. There are anti-drone units which have been activated. There are special forces, there's this marine commandos who are patrolling in Dal Lake. There are national security guards, army, paramilitary, BSF, CRPF, SSB, and of course Jammu and Kashmir police. There are thousands of these troops spread across the and the valley and in Jammu areas, even in the border areas, to ensure that nothing goes wrong during these days. Three-day meeting is starting today from 3 p.m. Meeting will formally start. There are delegates, 60 delegates have already registered. There are also delegates from the special guests from the invitee countries. So they are also attending this meeting. There are a host of activities which are happening. There is, discussion will be about the film tourism, ecotourism, so many things. And it's not just the delegates, but also, local entrepreneurs, how they are showing their, innovation craft. There are people who are showing there are the Kashmiri handicraft. There are, women entrepreneurs who are showing how they are actually growing millets. There are other things showing. There are so many stalls at the SKICC. And there is also, besides the security, there's also some sort of, glittering facelift of many parts of Srinagar city where there have been some areas have been renovated. For example, Jahlim riverfront in Rajbagh area, where the road passes through that. These G20 delegation will be using. It has been given a facelift. There has been new paths have been laid. There have been, roads have been macadamized. Footpaths have been laid. So lots of activities. Some feel good ahead of this meeting. So lots of activities happening. And amid the tight security, we see next 3 days, in Kashmir, there will be G20 delegation here, and there will be, all officers from the Government of India. They are already here since yesterday. Yesterday they held a meeting, a press conference also here, and said there have been 118 G20 meetings, and India is already halfway through it is G20 presidency, and Srinagar event is a landmark event in many ways, including it is the first one after revocation of 370.
Right, a landmark event indeed. Thank you so much, Nazir, for joining us with that quick update. These meetings start post 3 p.m., but massive preparations and security arrangements have been made for this meet. As my colleague Nazir Masoodi just reported, thousands of troops and anti-drone units have also been deployed. With that, let's turn our attention now to the national capital, where Wrestling Federation of India chief and BJP MP Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh has taken an aggressive stand to the call that he undergo narco analysis to settle the allegations of sexual harassment. He has a condition though. He insists that Vinesh Fogart and Bajrang Punia should also undergo these tests. On Sunday, a Khap Panchayat met in Haryana's Meham. They passed a resolution demanding that Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh undergo a narco test and face legal action. Several ace grapplers, including Bajrang Punia, Sakshi Malik and Vinesh Fogart, have been protesting at Delhi's Jantar Mantar since April, as we've been extensively covering, accusing the WFI chief Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh of sexual harassment and demanding his arrest. The MP, meanwhile, continues to deny any wrongdoing and has accused the wrestlers of framing him. Back on the 29th of April, 2 separate police cases were registered after the Supreme Court issued a notice to the Delhi police. The police have filed a status report and told the court that a special investigation team has been formed to probe this matter. Now, in other news, a heatwave warning has been issued for Delhi and adjoining areas for today after several parts of the capital recorded maximum temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. Partly cloudy skies and heatwave conditions at isolated places have been forecast for today, but the Weather Office has also predicted strong surface winds reaching speeds of about 25 to 35 kilometers per hour during the day. And in staying with news from Delhi, a 36-year-old man died after his two-wheeler was allegedly run over by a speeding BMW car near the metro station at Moti Bagh in West Delhi in the early hours of Sunday. Delhi police says the accused woman was given bail hours after this accident took place. As we're reporting, though, a 36-year-old man has died after his two-wheeler was allegedly run over by the speeding BMW car near the metro station at Moti Bagh. Let's take a quick look at the international headlines. Russia's defense ministry claimed that the Wagner private army had seized the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. Wagner had also claimed in a video posted on Telegram that the city came under complete Russian control at about midday on Saturday. Footage released yesterday showed troops passing by extensive damage to buildings and debris in Bakhmut. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president has refuted Russia's claims. Greece's New Democracy Party supporters celebrated the exit poll results of their party yesterday as Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis' party was a full 20 percentage points ahead of its main rival, the left-wing Syriza party. Mitsotakis, whose Conservative Party scored a landslide election but without the seats in parliament to win outright, indicated he will seek a second election in a bid to consolidate victory without the need of a coalition partner. But a new electoral system of proportional representation meant his 40% vote share still was not enough to secure a majority of the 300 seats in parliament. To form a government, he would either have to seek a coalition partner from a smaller party or head to a second election. Meanwhile, Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, erupted on Sunday, spewing ash on eastern Sicily's largest city and forcing a shutdown of the city's airports. No injuries have been reported so far as this latest eruption is concerned. Instagram was back up for most users after a technical issue that disrupted services to thousands of people had been resolved. The company said it did not disclose the number of users affected by the disruption, but meanwhile, outage tracking website downdetector.com showed more than 1 lakh incidents in the United States, over 24,000 incidents in Canada, and over 56,000 incidents of outage in Britain. More than 180,000 users have reported issues with accessing Instagram at the peak of the global outage. And finally, Malisha Kharwa, a 14-year-old girl from Mumbai's Dharavi slum, has become the face of the beauty brand Forest Essentials' new campaign. Malisha was discovered in Mumbai in 2020 by Hollywood actor Robert Hoffman, who later set up a GoFundMe page for this girl. Today, this 14-year-old enjoys over 2 lakh followers on Instagram, and in recent years, she has done multiple modeling gigs and even been featured in a short film titled Live Your Fairy Tale.
Water is very close. Rainy season is now.